Okay, so I don't usually record my videos in the woods, but I can. Now, I know this isn't the most practical setup in the world with a small diaphragm condenser and a giant windscreen, but I wanted to show you that you can do it. And what's great is this has phantom power. So if you're wondering, does this have phantom power to power a condenser? Yes, it does. You could put a U87 on this thing if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could do it. So Shure has expanded their SLDX lineup to include the SLDX3, which is their XLR transmitter, and the SLDX5, which is their on-camera or in-camera bag receiver. Now, in my excitement for this ridiculous setup, I posted a video to Instagram, and fellow YouTuber Donna Did It reached out and he said he's currently trying out the Sennheiser version. And it kind of hit me like a sack of bricks that other companies are also making products like this, and I haven't seen any of them for some reason. Now, this device and the Sennheiser device are priced very similarly. I'll put links down in the description below to the most updated pricing, except the Sennheiser device also has 32-bit internal recording, meaning you can just take this little thing out with the Sennheiser one and record directly to this device and sync that up to your camera later on. It got me kind of wondering, well, how could these devices be priced in the same ballpark? And I think the main selling point for the SLDX lineup is just that. It's a whole lineup of products in their SLDX family that are interchangeable. So they have in-ear wireless packs and wireless microphones and dummy batteries and docking stations and just a whole bunch of components that you can buy within this same ecosystem that all work together. And I think that's kind of the main selling point for the Shure over the Sennheiser. We'll talk a little bit more about all that a la carte stuff in just a minute. I also think it's important to mention that Shure has been making wireless equipment for decades. And while this is kind of their first foray into like camera equipment, they've been making wireless equipment for music for a very long time. They have some of the best and most robust wireless systems out there. So this sort of transition into the camera space is really interesting to see. And if you watch my last video, which was the Move mic, they're really getting into like the consumer camera industry. So the SLDX3 and the SLDX5 are two very different products in this sort of a la carte ecosystem. So I'm going to review them kind of like two different products, but we'll talk about how they communicate as well. So let's start off with covering the SLDX3 and let's go inside because I don't know, I feel like I should be inside. It's a mic review. Why am I outside? This is weird. So there were a few configurations that I absolutely needed to try. One was attaching it to my shotgun microphone and using it in sort of like a booming capacity. And you can see here it's a little bit heavy, so this wouldn't be the most comfortable at an extended reach. Then I realized I can also plug it into the bottom side of my wired boom pole, which would be much more comfortable if you had a really long span. Definitely keep the weight a little bit more distributed. And the other setup that I thought was worth mentioning, this is definitely the look if you're into utility, if you want to have a little more everyday carry on you and look like you're badass and cool, this is definitely the way to do it. Now, aside from these few use cases, I can't really think of too many more ways to utilize a wireless XLR system, but let me go ahead and switch over to a different microphone so you can hear how that sounds, just to get an idea of the performance. Okay, I've switched over to the SM58, which sounds a little bit noisier from what I can tell. The microphone requires a little bit of gain, so I've boosted 6 dB at the transmitter, but I'm getting quite a lot less handheld handling noises with this microphone, so that's always a great thing. I'm trying to think of some other use cases that you could use for this, like maybe, you know, attaching it to the output of your mixer and sending a signal off to a specific person. Something like that could be pretty cool. Let me know if you can think of anything that might be a bit more practical down in the comments below. Now, what's pretty sick about this, as I mentioned, it is a la carte ecosystem. So you can actually get things like dummy batteries. So if you're mounting this inside of a camera bag, you can hook up a dummy battery to it and power it via your distro, which is just another great option for powering one of these for a longer shoot day. And in the box, you'll also receive this itty bitty Shure cold shoe mount, which has got that Shure green on it, and it looks pretty sweet. I'm sure that you're gonna like it. And I'm sure that that's the end of the Shure puns. I'm so sorry. In the bag, you're also gonna receive 2 cables. So mine came with a threaded 3.5 millimeter to normal 3.5 millimeter. So to go from the top of this to a camera, but it also came with a threaded 3.5 millimeter from this guy to an XLR on my mixer, which you're listening to right now. Wow, that was janky. Now, just some other basic stats to cover. This is 24-bit audio, which is awesome. There are also 3 different power settings that you can toggle between. So if you're not getting enough juice getting to your receiver, you can toggle through some different power settings. And I'll talk a little bit more about the communication between these two devices when we talk about the SLXD5. With the SLXD3, you can get up to about 8 hours with 2 alkaline batteries, and you can also purchase the Shure SB903 rechargeable batteries to go inside of here. Beyond that, it's just a really cool, rugged body. You can see it's got this little leather case that comes on it, which is pretty sweet. A little belt hoop in case you want to put that on your belt and run an XLR from your microphone to this. It's another kind of cool use case for it. The body itself is nice and strong. It feels really robust. It's kind of what you'd expect with buying a product from Shure. No question of the quality when you're holding this device. It feels very premium, feels like a good piece of tech. Okay, check. Okay, I've actually switched back to the condenser because I like the sound of this much more. All right, now let's chat about the SLXD5 receiver. So it has 2 ports on the top. We have a threaded 3.5 millimeter output for your camera or for your mixer, and we have a 3.5 millimeter headphone output as well. On the top, we have a relatively concealed power switch, and I really appreciate that it's kind of concealed between these 2 jacks because the chances of sort of mistakenly hitting it are much lower, which I really appreciate. Something important to note about the SLXD5 is that it is a single channel receiver, so you can only receive 1 microphone signal at a time. However, they do have this cool option where you can go in and actually configure multiple wireless systems using 1 receiver. So you can actually set up a whole bunch of different microphones, frequency bands using the 1 receiver, but you can only receive 1 signal from 1 microphone source. So if you're looking for something that's stereo, this is not the option for you. I know there are some devices out there that are the same form factor and will receive stereo, so you can split that within your camera. This is just a mono device. Shure also uses a diversity antenna system. And I'm pretty sure that what diversity means, I learned this way back in school, but that was 10, 15 years ago. It's basically going to be constantly hunting for the stronger signal between the 2 different antennae, and it's going to automatically switch over to the one that has the stronger signal. So this just means you have a much more robust wireless performance. So if you're in a densely crowded area or areas with lots of RF interference, you're going to get a much more reliable signal because it's always going to be switching to the better of the 2 signals. On that same note, something to mention about this is a UHF system, which is infinitely better than something like the Rode wireless system or the Holly Landmark Max or the DJI mic. This is just infinitely better. It's a much stronger signal. It's not using the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, which is the same as the Wi-Fi bands. This is sort of stepping up into the pro wireless ecosystem. With that, you have about 32 channels available per wireless band. And what's great about a device like this is that if you turn it on and you're getting interference in your signal, you can just scan and find a better signal, and it'll actually automatically scan and find the best frequency band to use for you. You don't even have to do that. You just scan, it'll find the best one. You sync the 2 devices with infrared. You literally hold them up to each other and they go boop on the same frequency. So you can pull this out of the box and start using it in like 3 minutes without any complications and knowing that you're getting the best signal with diversity antennas. It's a win-win-win. And the final thing I want to mention about the SLXD system is that it is expandable. So you can sort of adapt as your budget sees fit or as your needs grow. You can continue to grow and add to this collection of devices, and they're all going to work together and communicate very nicely. So who is this microphone system not best for? I would say if you are a pro sound mixer on location, and you're watching this, you're probably not watching this because you already know this is not the right tool for you. It's missing some features that you would need, time code sync, all sorts of other things. So this is probably not the best tool for you. And also people who are looking for every feature crammed into one product at a really good cost, it's probably not the best device for you. These aren't cheap and they don't have every feature that exists on the market right now. There are cheaper options out there, but they're not Shure. So who is a microphone kit like this for? Definitely indie video producers and indie location sound mixers, camera operators, and journalists who need to be able to set up a camera and get good audio into their camera very easily. And people who want the predictability of knowing that they're getting the absolute best quality wireless system that they can get at this price point. Practically, if you're doing street interviews or independent journalists, you just want to walk around and film some TikTok videos and interview people, this is an unbelievably strong piece of gear. You would be very happy with it. Okay, how about the pros and cons? I'm gonna look for my list here because I have a few things that I really wanna make sure that I cover for you guys. So let's start with the cons. Con number 1 is there is no built-in limiter in this device. So you do have to be a bit mindful when you're setting your gain. If you set it too high and then somebody starts to laugh or to yell and you're trying to interview them, it's gonna clip the microphone, and it's a digital system, so there's really nothing you can do about that. Your camera is going to record clipping. Something to think about, not a huge deal if you're gonna take a second to set your gain. Second thing, as I mentioned, this doesn't include every feature that exists on the market. Some devices like this also have internal recording where you can record directly inside of this and sync that up with your video later in post, which gives you a backup in case there are any dropouts between this and your camera. This doesn't have any internal recording, so keep that in mind. The third con is that there is a very small delay between the transmitter and the receiver because this is a digital system. So there's actually some compute happening in here and then sending the signal to the receiver. What this means practically is 3.2 milliseconds of delay, which most people won't even notice. The lips still look in sync. I'm not actually changing the sync in post right now, so what you're seeing is what you get. If you've thought this whole video, wow, his lips look way out of sync, then maybe we have a bit of an issue. But 3.2 milliseconds it's very, very small. It's very good for a digital wireless system. And the fourth and final con is that this is single channel only, as we mentioned. And jumping over to the pros, the first one is actually kind of a pro and a con. It's that they are diversity antennas or antennae, diversity antennae. And the con of that is that I don't think that you can take these antennas off. I'm pretty sure that they are stuck on here, which is great until you break one or bend one or something like that. So just be mindful if you're putting this in a sound bag or something like that. You want to be very careful not to break these. It does look like you can actually unscrew them. So maybe they are replaceable, but yeah, they're not like hot swappable, and you can't use them with third-party antenna systems either. Next on the pros list, insane quality. Insane quality. It feels very premium. From the second that I plugged this in, even the accessories that it comes with, the little cables and whatnot, everything just feels very good. And this is coming from someone who reviews a lot of, let's call them knockoff or budget microphones. You feel it when you pull these microphones out of the bag. They feel really, really nice. So very, very, very pleased with the quality. The next pro is that it's very easy to set up the wireless system. It's like, it really is quite intuitive. I don't do a whole lot of wireless stuff. And so when I think of doing a job where I have to use wireless equipment, I kind of get a bit scared because I'm like, I don't want, like, what if it just doesn't communicate, or I can't find a frequency that works? And like, I don't want to have to like menu dive to find frequencies. That whole thing just kind of stresses me out. This is so simple to set them up, sync to the same channel, and you're good to go. The second last pro is that there is an entire ecosystem to choose from. Not a huge deal for me. I probably won't be using a lot of these wireless things in my own work, but it is nice to know that you can kind of expand upon this as you see fit. And the very, very last pro that I'll leave you with is that this is not a 2.4 gigahertz spectrum microphone. This is a massive, massive step up if you've been using something like the Hollyland, the Rode Wireless Pro, the DJI microphone, any one of those clip-on lapel 2.4 gigahertz microphones. This is going to be a very, very nice treat for you. If you have any questions about this thing, throw them down below. I'm going to be playing with this a lot over the next couple of weeks. Definitely subscribe if you haven't, and I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for watching to the end. Have a great day. Talk to you later.